honor of facilitating or moderating this session with a particularly important topic called the implementation of the incident command system in the private sector and in non-government organizations. I have the speakers here, Ms. Rosalba Aguilar, who's an engineer who's the former director of the emergency system of Ocensa in Colombia. This is a company that transports oil. She has had an important role as coordinator of the National Plan for Response of Chemical Emergencies at the National Association of Entrepreneurs. She is going to share her experiences on progress and experiences in the implementation of ICS in Ocensa. Enrique Salvador Ortiz Espinosa from the Environmental Emergencies Direction of the Environmental Protection Agency in Mexico. She's also going to share with us the application of the Incident Command System for chemical emergencies in Mexico. And also, we have here with us Master Jose Nelson Chavez. He's the Regional Officer for World Vision. It's a non-government organization with worldwide presence, and he is the Officer for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergencies, who will also share with us the experiences of how they are implementing within World Vision the Incident Command System. So I invite Engineer Rosalba Aguilar to use. We have 20 minutes for presentation. First of all, I would like to thank you as AID-AFTA for inviting me to participate in this third Latin American forum that will allow us sharing experiences on the implementation of the Incident Command System. We're beginning to cover the subject matter of what has been for Ocensa as an organization. I consider it important to take a look at the context of what Ocensa is and what is the emergency response system. Ocensa is a mixed company created since 1995, and as our moderator says, it does not explore or exploit, it transports hydrocarbons. This is fundamental to take into account when taking the development process of this ICS model. Let's take a look at some detail on what Ocensa is. It's the largest oleoduct that the country has at this moment. It covers 6 departments: Casanare, Boyacá, Santander, Antioquia, Córdoba, and Sucre. We go from the Casanare to our Caribbean Ocean in Colombia. Why is it the longest oleoduct that our country has? It's 848 kilometers, out of which 836 correspond to the land line and 12 kilometers in the submarine line. For the transportation of this hydrocarbon, in addition, we have 7 firefighter stations, 1 in Cupiagua, 1 in Cusiana. We continue to Miraflores, El Porvenir. We continue to La Belleza, which is an automatic station. Afterwards, we go to Asconia. Then we go to Caucasia to end up in Coveñas, our maritime terminal. Incoveñas includes the central oleoduct of Ocensa, and it also includes the Caño Limón Coveñas that some of you might know, and also the central Colombia oleoduct that begins in Vasconia. Part of the ODC is also managed by Ocensa. It's 432 kilometers. We have tanks in all the facilities of almost 6.5 million barrels, and it transports around 590,000 barrels per day. Approximately 60% of the oil that comes in our country comes from there. Thus, the importance that this is the backbone that we're looking at. We cannot, in a given moment, take the chance of stopping this. Should an emergency or an incident occur. This is in a nutshell what Ocensa is. Now let's take a look at the emergency response system for Ocensa as such. It has been defined that within the balance scorecard of the company, we have a specific objective in what is related to the emergency response system. Therefore, this is a priority and fundamental aspect in our organization, which has been strengthened and structured since 1995 as such. And we're going to see how this, the process for this emergency response system, how it has worked. We respond not only to a national policy but also international. For example, the transport of the United States, specifically 105 DOT, also to what is related to the American Association of Mechanical Engineers, among others. We have certification and recertification in what is related with management standards, ISO 14000 and ISO 18000. At the national level, we specifically respond to our national risk management policy, our law 1523, and specifically with national contingency for spillages against spillage of hydrocarbons, derivatives, and hazardous materials in oil bodies, in water bodies. For Ocensa, the priority in the attention of an emergency is fundamentally determined by safeguarding the lives of the people, afterwards the environment, and lastly the infrastructure or the assets of the company. Based on this strategic strategy, we based our emergency response system as such within Ocensa. As part of management systems, we are on the seventh element as a defined strategic policy. And it is this way that we have a policy that's addressed not only towards prevention, but also it is related to preparedness and response to incidents and emergencies that at some time might arise, but with an objective that is going to be fundamentally to minimize the effects on the people and the environment. As a management cycle, we have a PHVA that we're going to try to explain in detail during this presentation. Within management systems, we are on the 10th element, preparedness and response to emergencies. If you know these management systems, we are specifically on number 447, prevention and response to incidents and emergencies. Let's take a look at this in detail, what it is and how this emergency response system interacts. We interact with our 8 groups of interest. the community to be taken into account, very important for our organization, state and regulating entities, as is the case of environmental authorities, ministries, regional autonomous corporations, municipal and departmental councils for risk management. But there is also something that we must take into account with these changes that the organization has had lately, and it is that we have groups of interest, our customers, our operators and shareholders and investors. Why do I mention this? Because before, all the shareholders and investors of Ocensa were specifically from the hydrocarbon sector. Not now. 70% it pertains to the hydrocarbon sector, but the other 30% is in the property of some funds of employees at the international level. They are asking now to the organization to show profits. We interact, then we're going to take a look at a strategic plan, or we're looking at this action plan that's developed, a revision of our contingency plans, our emergency plans, the emergency response system as such, to get to that attention and control, and to getting ready for an incident that might arise at a given moment. For this purpose, we have a structure for everything that's related with the emergency response system. We're going to see that we have in the strategic, tactical, and operative levels that breakdown of our emergency response system. We have an incident assessment committee that we're going to take a look at in detail, a managerial support team which has a manual as such that won't go over 15 pages, with basically we have the roles and the responsibilities for decision making, because here we're speaking about a strategic level and a tactical level, and everything that has to do with the operative level, a local incident commander where we deploy our emergency management model, which is the incident command system. In agreement with these new needs of the company, we were looking at this since 1995 until the year 2005. We transported light raw oil, light crude. In 1995, this transportation was changed to heavy crude oil, and this means that we must also change our Ocensa operation, interaction with these interest groups that we were looking at, the procedures, administrative as well as operative. I mentioned that interaction with these new partners and a few agreements. These procedures it is fundamental to have them updated in agreement with the transportation needs for the hydrocarbon, which are heavy crude oils. And also what is related to agreements, for example, in the area down here below, in our Piedemonte, Janeiro, we have a tripartite agreement between Equion, Ecopetrol, and Ocensa for the attention of incidents and emergencies. In the area of the Magdalena, we have an agreement with Manzarovar, Ecopetrol, TGI, which is a gas company, and a temporary union. Likewise, in Córdoba, we have an agreement with Cerro Matoso. And lastly, in our terminal for Coeñas, we have an agreement which is the famous Integrated Committee for Emergency Response, which is linked not only to the private sector but also the public sector. We have, for example, Ecopetrol, but we also have the Port Authority of Coeñas and the Coast Guard, the Navy as such in Coeñas. Public and private sector, so as to take into account that interrelationship that we have been able to establish through this committee. Let's take a look in detail how implementation and the development has been for this emergencies management model that we have adopted as such for the incident command system. we have as the pre-HVA cycle, it has to do with planning, doing, verifying, and acting. That's for the acronym in Spanish. In planning, what do we have? Everything that is related to the identification of legal requirements, updating at the national and international levels, best practices of the sector of the industry, risk analysis, emergency plans, contingency plans, the definition of these strategies, of these milestones of our emergency response system, maintenance plans and tests of equipment and tools, all the inspection programs and safety programs, all the mechanisms of mutual assistance agreements that we have, everything that is planning. For the H, which is hacer in Spanish, doing in English, which have everything that is related with training, exercises, simulations, drills, and everything that is related with the staff assessment program. Communication, notification of the report, documentary control, and the application of these standardized operative procedures. For verifying as management system, we have all the follow-up, all the assessment that we permanently carry on for these strategies and action plan that we carry on every year, but also this action plan, it goes in a short, medium, and long term, and we perform the required adjustments that are considered necessary as we advance in this continuous improvement cycle. Likewise, in what is related to the acting, what do we have in that acting? In that acting specifically, we have everything that is related to plans and improvement actions, the documentary, the definition of resources, the disclosure and socialization. Let's take a look at this in detail. I want to share with you based on the diagnosis that we carry on every day, we set some action guidelines of the strategic program that I was talking about. It has the basis of the PHVA, some lines of action that have some instruments, but more importantly, they have responsibles and indicators of management and results. Response of who to blame if something comes out wrong, and who should we not compliment if something comes out well. What does this allow us to do? To be ready for the attention of these possible incidents or emergencies that might arise. Here we have the structure, the strategic, tactical, and how we deploy in the operative part what's related to the incident command system. Every week there is a shift manager. The shift manager has to be available 24/7. If an incident occurs or an emergency, that a call could come through the control room of the oleoduct. The oleoduct has a satellite monitoring system which allows at a given moment to see if there's a reduction in pressure, and we can automatically stop it. This shift manager can be notified by an incident or an emergency that might arise in a given moment, and he activates by telephone the Incident Assessment Committee. The Incident Assessment Committee appoints an incident manager, which is the only one that interacts with the local incident commander. The local incident commander gives the level of the emergency as such, level 1, 2, or 3, and this committee approves it. If the emergency is level 2 or 3, and they consider that they must activate this managerial support team that's already integrated by all the managers, the managerial support team is activated. Otherwise, uh, it's just informed at a level 1 or level 2, and the managerial support team is not activated. Each one of them has their responsibilities within this emergency response system. Likewise, you already mentioned that. I think that it's not, we must not see how we deploy this in first the part of chiefs of section as in the task forces, intervention teams, branches, and everything that's related to the attention of an incident or an emergency. Let's see where we are in some of the examples and how I call it from theory to practice. We have seen the practice. What is the planning? Let's take a look now at what is being done. We perform training at the strategic and tactical and operative levels, at all the levels of the organization, but we also do it internally but also externally. Here, this is a training in Coveñas where we have the participation of the Army, Police Department, the Port Authority, and others. This allows us to be articulated and be prepared to know each other beforehand, before the incident. We also reinforce the roles and responsibilities in what specifically is related with the incident command system at all levels of the organization. Here we see the general manager at the level of Coveñas staff, but we also carry on an interaction with as related to simulations specifically with the authorities of environmental authorities and the entities of the National Risk Management System, specifically for contingency plans. This is what we had basically to share. Lastly, I want to reiterate our gratitude for the space provided, not only to show and share experiences. I consider that this is a learning and relearning. In these 3 days that we have been gathered here, I've seen the development of the countries, of the agencies. A continuous improvement system allows this to be a dynamic process. This is a process that cannot be stagnant. It has to be dynamic. It's a process that's permanently changing. I repeat, the success, I think, is in that assessment and permanent follow-up done as a management system. They have allowed us to progress. It hasn't been easy, but I repeat, this is something that we have to do continuously. I hope that I met the time. It's amazing. 20 minutes exactly. Thank you very much, Engineer Rosalba Aguilar. You have been very effective, not only in the management of time, but also in the transmission of an important message where we can certify how the incident command system is being applied in a company that, even though it is mixed public and private, but with lots of a big emphasis on the private sector. Now I introduce to you Enrique Salvador Ortiz Espinosa from the Environmental Emergencies of the Environmental Protection in Mexico, who will share with us the implementation of the ICS in chemical emergencies in Mexico. First of all, I want to publicly thank Pedro Soto and USAID, the Governance Secretariat, for allowing me to be an agency to participate in this event. Thank you very much for the recognition for the important effort you carry on in Mexico to the management of emergencies, and this has been ongoing since many years ago. they told me that I had an hour, so I had 200 slides. Now they told me just 30 minutes, so I reduced it to 100. Then they told me 20 minutes. I just removed one. And since I am never on time, so what I do is that I begin from the end to is in relation to the need that simulations in the case of chemical emergencies, which for lots of people, for society, oftentimes represent discomfort. They don't see the reason for these activities, but finally this discomfort is for a short time, but the gain is going to be forever. And I thank you for your attention. Okay, let's begin very quickly. A definition of chemical emergency as such in our legislation, we don't have one. We have the chemical technological phenomenon by the National Civil Protection System, but when we had to update the joint plan Mexico-United for chemical emergencies in the border strip after the attacks of September 11, we had a proposal by the United States to include terrorism. We are an environmental agency, we're not national security. So therefore we had a discussion that took approximately 2 years to prevent the inclusion of terrorism here. So it's not included in our borders or joint plan for this agency. So we had to define this definition here. This terrorist attack is something that is planned. An emergency is not planned. So here we have defined a chemical emergency within the joint in Mexico, United States. It's an unplanned event. How many chemical substances do we have and what concern our country according to the CAS registry? But we had 19. At the beginning we had 90 million chemical substances, and regulated were only 0.34%. Why? Due to some characteristics that we know of them, mostly due to the risk associated to their physical chemical properties. And commercial products, well, the ones that we have here on the right hand corner, almost 100 million commercial products that our societies have to face these products. Do we have emergencies in Mexico? Yes, many. The most significant one is an oil spillage in a population. This is a clandestine duct. It suffers a spillage and then it burns. An explosion of methane gas in an administrative building of the Mexican Petroleum building. Comments by the media regarding the way in which we handled that event, not simulation but a real event. That's it. Confusion, lack of organization, etc. Don't count the time while they change the slides, please. Another event. This is due to fireworks, the celebration of a local regional fair in Tlaxcala. Agrochemicals. And agrochemical companies, organochlorate and organophosphorate pesticides, the risk of forming other compounds which are more toxic as a result of combustion. An LP gas truck on a road to Pachuca, the Teotihuacan pyramids. This picture was given to me by Edson. A Combustoil truck lost its brakes and crashes toll. A spillage last year, 40,000 cubic meters of a solution of copper sulfate. The most recent one, last week, an explosion in a child maternity hospital. It's associated to a duct of LP gas. We have 5 casualties so far, and the result was approximately 78 injured victims. You can see that clearly here, but this is the implementation of the incident command system. This is a real response of important magnitude. And what happens really? These are just a few. The Federal Environmental Agency since 1992 or 93 has a record of all the chemical emergencies in the country. No, no, stop it here. This is the trend of emergencies of during the year 2000. You can see that it is increasing. This year, we are at around 1,000 chemical emergencies that occur in our country. We have had a substantial increase. Why? Because we have handled the notification and reports of chemical emergencies. We work in a coordinated manner together with the SENACOMO, the Governance Secretariat, and others that are in charge of the spillages in Mexico. Look at the differences, the discrepancies in relation to the number of emergencies. Veracruz, Tabasco, Tamaulipas, Campeche are oil states. Quintana Roo, this is mostly tourism. In this case, it's mostly related to transport of oil-related materials. 6 states concentrate more than 50% of the chemical emergencies in our country. And how can we, the environmental sector, see the response? Since 1980, the general law legislation of ecological balance and environmental protection says that any risky activity is based on the 2 lists, one of toxic substances and the other list of inflammable and explosive materials, which jointly would represent approximately 450 substances. That company then handles these substances just for the fact of managing them in a specific amount, which is an amount of being reported. It's a federal competency, and it is a risky activity that must comply with an accident prevention plan, where we include what? We include the emergency response plan. As an environmental sector, we have to assess emergency response plans of the highly risky activities. Referred to is about the knowledge of the implementation of the command system in the assessment of response plans of private initiatives considered as highly risky. These are simulations, what we intend with each one of them, and the implementation of the incident command system began by the end of the 90s with large multinational companies like DuPont, which by corporate included in their response plans the implementation of emergency management systems, specifically what we would know as the ICS. The large power state company as Mexican Petroleum at the end of the 90s have implemented it too. Then, at the beginning of year 2000, something that strengthened the knowledge and management of the incident command system were the joint Mexico-United States plans. So far, we have 2 joint plans, one terrestrial and one maritime. The terrestrial pertains to the environmental sector, to be coordinated together with the Interior Secretariat, and the maritime plan is specifically pertaining to the Marine Secretariat. They have a large training regarding hazardous materials and the ICS, with differences in the application between what would be the maritime one, which in the United States is the Coast Guard, the terrestrial, which is the Environmental Protection Agency of the United States. But since year 2000, an important training of everything that is emergent at the border. This is the joint Mexico-United States plan. It applies for terrestrial events at 100 kilometers at both sides of the border. Here we had the joint response plans along the border. We have identified 15 sister cities, and each one of them, by mandate of the joint plan, should have a local plan for emergencies response. And the first ones in responding are the municipalities in case support is required. The chemical exercises mainly. This is the participation of the EPA. We comprise the to speak the in both countries. Application of the command system in the border in the state of Sonora. The application of the command system. This was held by civil protection people, and this is all. We trained lots of people. This is very significant on the Mexican side. A fire at a hotel, and there has been a problem that has arisen in the recent years, which is due to a insurance. There have been some constraints by some local response groups. They do not enter our country because there is no insurance coverage. This is the border. On the left side, we have American firefighters supporting Mexican firefighters to fight this fire. This is the maritime plan. It was signed at the beginning of the year 2000, and we have two plans, one for the Gulf of Mexico and the other one for the Pacific Ocean, again working a lot under the Incident Command Scheme. A binational exercise at the Isla del Padre. This is the environmental sector incorporated to the application of the incident command system to take decisions regarding planning. The meetings we have held, mixed meetings between the terrestrial and maritime plans to adjust, adapt, and have a same language regarding the system. As a result of the experience that we had in the terrestrial part of Mexico, United States, we took the scheme to the interior of the country, and also because we have to assess plans of chemical responses. And these are some of the exercises that we have made. Everybody applying command system. They have basic knowledge of what the command system is in a higher teaching institution. This is the second most important teaching center in the country. Pemex, lots of exercises with a Mexican petroleum company, oil platforms to assess their response. The Leche Lala industry, one of the most important dairy factories in the country. Behind you can see the command center. Pemex again, the petroleum company, oil rigs, refineries, petrochemicals. Altamira, Tamaulipas. This is a very important industrial nucleus. It's a local committee of mutual assistance. It's the second in importance in the country. More applications of all the events that we have carried on. There is knowledge. The incident command system is applied as a result of binational policy with the United States. We try to take this together with Guatemala, and in year 2005 we did it together with Guatemala, Ciudad Hidalgo, and Tucumán, because there was an acid spillage in a river that divides both countries. This was an interesting experience regarding the coordination to carry forward these events. And always I joke about this because I say that if in the United States we have an emergency and we do not have a way to respond, we call them and they support us. In the case of Guatemala, if Guatemala has an emergency, they call us. And we, since we do not have anything to respond with, we run all together away. But we run to the right place. That's the important thing. We run together. This is Tucumán. In Mexico, we have the national plan of contingencies for hydrocarbons and other hazardous materials at the ocean, which is the support of the maritime plan with the United States, the Nexus. Here we also implement, and I think this is one of the agencies of the federal government that has a very well developed incident command system to respond to hydrocarbon spillages in the Pacific as well as in the Gulf of Mexico. Exercises of incident command system. An exercise for spillage of hydrocarbons. Training courses, lots of courses, supported by the Coast Guard. Afterwards, in our country, the role that OFTA has had and civil protection has had have been extremely important to strengthen and to try to standardize in our country the incident command system. Currently, we're working together. We have worked with Customs binationally too. Mass destruction weapons with the national safety system of security system of the United States and Mexico. The exercise in Guadalajara before the Pan American Games, by demand of the entities, we had to have different simulations of mass destruction weapons, chemical, radiological, and nuclear weapons too. The VP event in the United States was very important. According to Nexus Gulf, we could activate this response plan, and there was the need of becoming integrated as environmental sector to be prepared in case the United States asked for assistance to respond to the Louisiana. This is the Louisiana event. It lasted 153 days. The well was controlled in 87 days. And approximately 5.2 million barrels were spilled. There was no need to activate the binational plan in this case, but we created a special group to respond, and this is what we were working on. In a practical manner, we still needed a lot more knowledge on the incident command system at that time. We had to give them quick courses regarding what the emergency management should be, and we were able to have something ready in case the support was activated with the Nexus Gulf to respond to this hydrocarbon spillage. The work that the Interior Secretariat has promoted, working groups to prepare the standard, something that's very important is since the year 2012, we the country the creation of the National Day for Preparedness and Response for Chemical Emergencies. If we have the Day of the Dancer, we have the Day of the Dog, why not the National Day for Preparedness and Response to Chemical Emergencies? Since 2012 we have that day. We have had the participation of some countries in Central America. One day, in this case it's the second Friday of the month of July, we'll join our efforts and push in Mexico. We're doing that already in the United States, and hopefully we could do that jointly to create this. That day, we have all the preparedness, all the exercises to be adequately prepared if a chemical emergency occurs, not only in Mexico. These are the objectives and management of emergency for the incident command system: minimize impacts to population and environment, to be better prepared, to have better brigade members. These are the results. In 2012, we had 63 events. In 2014, we increased to 444 events. Out of them, 364 were simulations, mainly in large industries. And these are important simulations. In a simulation, we have the intervention of the three government levels: local, state, and federal. In average, we have the participation of 100 to 1,000 people in each of these simulations to assess response plans and to promote again the incident command system. Here we have the results by National Center here too. In total, in these 2 or 3 years, we have made from 2000 on, we have had more than 1,000 binational exercises. We have had 50 maritime, 50, many of them binational, maritime, and as a conclusion, there are many conclusions that can be drawn from here, many. Something that is general is that most of the cases, 70 to 80% of the cases in Mexico, everybody manages the incident command system. We need to fine-tune it. The roles in the case of hazardous materials, that is an important problem. In addition to the knowledge that we should have on the incident command system, it implies the knowledge and specialization in the management of hazardous materials, which is a serious problem for us, and it's another very important area of opportunity. We are working, the initiative that we had currently by the federal government is excellent, to begin standardizing the different models that we have managed of the command system of the Coast Guard, of what is managed by the Northern Command, what's managed by NIMS and the Environmental Protection Agency. That is the experience that we have had. This year, again, for the 4th year in a row, we have celebrated the National Day. Hopefully we can promote it at the regional level. I think that would be something very important to provide security and safety to our population and the environment. You see, I ended on time. Thank you. Thank you very much. We have listened to this very interesting presentation made by Mr. Enrique Salvador Ortiz Espinosa. As I said before, Environmental Emergencies Direction, PROFEPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency of Mexico. Now I introduce Master Jose Nelson Chavez, who is the Regional Officer for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergencies of non-government organization World Vision. While I come down, good afternoon, I want you to stand up. This is the time in which the meet and launch begin making the necessary claims. Every person who is presenting at this time is going to be not very welcome by you. So please stretch, take advantage of saying hello to the person next to you. Say, it's been so nice looking at you all these few days. Take advantage of this collaboration space. So that's so good. Take your seats now. Thank you. Who are we? World Vision International is a humanitarian organization for protection of childhood, and we were born more than 50 years ago in a context of humanitarian assistance. In the problems that Korea had at that time, that's where this organization was born, with the vision of a missionary called Bob Pierce. And he said when he saw all the pain, the painful situations that the girls had when they got to his window, when he began praying for their food, he found that he had 5, 10, 100 girls, boys and girls who were looking for food and protection too. So in the context of a complex humanitarian emergency and armed conflict, that's where organization was born. And from there on, we have had presence in approximately 100 countries in the world. 100 national offices, out of which we are integrated in around 107 regional offices. Latin America and the Caribbean, we have the regional offices in the city of Panama, and from there on we have also articulated all our humanitarian operations with national civil protection systems like CEPREDENAC, CAPRADE, and the LAC network, and the whole humanitarian issue that is articulated from the City of Knowledge. And we are working in close collaboration with each of the country systems. And of course, all the other speakers, I want to thank of the for giving us this space as NGO to facilitate this moment to share the experience of what this adventure has been, the challenge of betting on the incident command system. Just as Mr. Ortiz, I'm going to ask the Master Control to help me to change the slides, and I also want for those of you who are in the virtual broadcasting to please stay with us. This is our declaration of our mission and vision. Our main reason is we are an organization that is community-based with an approach to childhood, and after this we have been participating in the most important emergencies in the world since the tsunami in 2004. In the southeast of Asia, this has been one of the appropriations for which World Vision has been working strongly. Then we came to the region 2010. We found 30 days of difference between Haiti and Chile. Then Japan, our teams responded to emergencies there. We do not respond to the emergencies only that are quite classical, like earthquakes and hurricanes or hydrometeorological issues. We also have to face situations like the case of Ebola. We're working also with HIV programs in Africa, mainly with food safety and nutrition in areas in which the drought has also been a problem. The last report of this German agency, I don't know if you were able to see, German Watch reported that of the 10 more vulnerable countries in the world, 5 are in Latin America. I don't know how many of you saw this report. Honduras is number 1. The second or third is Haiti. We also have within this list Guatemala, the Dominican Republic, Bolivia. So it's interesting to know how within the 10 first most vulnerable countries in the world, we are in that list. And even in the institutes that take a look at security and crimes, out of the 10 most dangerous cities in the world, 80% are in Latin America and the Caribbean. It's amazing. San Pedro Sula is for the 3rd year in a row the position which is a matter of concern for the government of Honduras, as it is also for the rest of the Central American countries, a problem and matter of concern. So this is a couple of maps that identify also what are the most important threat scenarios. We have this volcanic area, and we have to declare that our interventions on the field are done under the coordination of all the national civil defense and protection systems. We're articulated in each of the 14 countries with the participation of World Vision in Latin America from Mexico, Central America, with the exception of Belize. We're in Panama regionally, and in the south we work in Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, Chile, and Brazil. And in the Caribbean, we are in the Dominican Republic and Haiti. And from there, we also articulate all our capacity building processes. We have been very thankful with OVDA in the last 10 or 15 years because many of our work colleagues have also been trained in OVDA by OVDA through the portal for the region. Many are now instructors that collaborate with the national systems with their internal training processes. From there on, what do we have? If we go back to the previous slide, I want to quickly show you the characterization of important scenarios where we have made intervention clusters. And from there on, for example, that's the dry Central American corridor impacted by El Nino, the drought, and all the nutritional problems in the production of food which has generated in this 2014. This has caused the restating our interventions from the development standpoint. Much of what we do in World Vision is done within 3 fundamental lines or pillars. One has to do with advocacy, defense, protection, development, and also humanitarian and emergency affairs, which rest mainly aligned to under the framework of NGOs and we work under the International Strategy of Disaster Risk Reduction. So our interventions are done not only from the perspective of an effective response. We are not a first response organization, however, together with the training processes of national teams, including municipalities, we also have presence in Latin America in the 14 countries. So after this, what we have done is to define sectorial technical teams specialized mainly due to geological effects, hydrometeorological issues, and recently under the strategic vision that the organization has of Disaster Management 2020 and what we call urban risk. We are now moving to the concepts of megacities, how disasters are impacting mainly the most important cities. And after this, many of your countries are waiting the big one. Santiago's waiting for the big one. Quito's waiting for the big one. Lima, Mexico, they're all waiting for the big one. So we're all thinking of the possible occurrence of events that logically are going to make us change our lifestyle. And of course, the recurrence of other phenomena, as the case of volcanoes. Costa Rica has been very busy this year with their volcanic activity. Nicaragua, Mexico with the Popocatépetl also. So I think that after this, we are facing processes that are atypical. In the last 3 years, we had, for example, hurricanes in the southeast of Brazil, for example. These scenarios are changing right now, and this imposes the challenge to organization to be able to see how we can prepare our interventions. Where does our purpose begin with to work on ICS? The structure that we have globally, which is a global response team, and from this we have the regional response teams derived, and since from Panama we have a whole process of identification, accreditation for our staff, and part of our commitments is, in addition, these people have to be directly linked with their national defense and civil protection systems. They also participate in permanent learning processes, exercises, simulations. We have drills. We permanently collaborate with humanitarian country teams and also with all the United Nations networks. And as I said before, we also participate within our own training curricula. We have all the contents of the portfolio. So many of us work under these standards, and for us it was easy then as a global team to adopt the incident command system so that the World Vision Partnership would create what was called the Emergency Management System. 95% of this system is inspired in the Incident Command System. And from there on, for us, it's a lot easier under the whole nomenclature, the common language, the structure, the flexibility, the way in which the command system is organized to articulate with much ease, not only inside the organization itself, but also how we work when we can provide assistance to our national systems. In El Salvador, how many tables do we have in El Salvador? 7. World Vision participates in 3 of them, so we have to make sure that we are also contributing at those levels. We are collaborators under these structures. What do we have then? Based on this, we have our own system of emergency management. There's a standardization of the protocols we work with, and it was easy for us then to adopt the incident command system. This was not an easy transition. Let's see how we have been applying the incident command system, mainly in emergency response. The most recent one was related to the unaccompanied migrant childhood. We have been working closely with the childhood protection systems in Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador and Mexico to make sure that from there on we can establish cooperation mechanisms, and based on that we also have a better coordination under the umbrella of the ICS. So this has been a challenge for us to experiment or to test the application of ICS under not the traditional emergencies, in which national systems are grouped under these standards. So after this, the unaccompanied migrant childhood is one of the elements that we have been able to articulate to our 4 teams in this effort. Another one has to be with the impact of the El Niño phenomenon, mainly with all the drought that Central America has. So even Colombia reported, also one of the Colombian regions and part of Panama to Mexico, the dry corridor, have shown the same situation. So for us, it was a lot easier to work under the structure of the command system, and this has generated lots of ease to progress with that. Let's move on, and from here on we can see that we have created and designed materials mainly to work with children, youngsters, and the community. We have mediated this information to make sure that knowledge is also part of what the communities that we accompany in their processes for development as disaster risk reduction and protection can also access this knowledge. So under the carousel methodology, we're working on process of learning with youth and children in universities, churches, and schools to guarantee that within this training curriculum, our youngsters are having the ICS as part of the elements that they are learning by playing, and the youngsters participate also in this process. We are generating a new culture, a new citizen under this concept in which ICS also becomes an important element. What else do we have? After this, we're going to see the next one, please. And after this, what we have is some difficulties. Of course, this is a model that we are also wanting to make sure that we're doing things well. One of the important things for us is to make sure that learning processes inside national organizations maintain this continuous process. They maintain within their portfolio the content and the models of ICS with the regional support of OFDA. We have been able to complete since 2013 our first incident command system, basic level in the city of Costa Rica. Then the previous year we were able to complete the training process of our quick response teams in Panama City, where the representatives of 14 national teams, now also meeting in the regional team, were able to complete their intermediate level. Important challenges is to move to the advanced level of the ICS, so that in that order we can continue working under the same model and structure. Another important challenge is, of course, national structures present lots of resistance to change. And the other thing is to manage staff rotation topics. You invest in people in your learning and teaching processes, but a year later you see that the person changed the job or left the organization. So sometimes we have had to have more frequent processes closer in time to guarantee the commitment of the multiplication of knowledge inside the country offices. What else do we have? So part of what I was mentioning, these are some pictures of our training. This is an interesting example. October, November this year, 2014. The Adventist Seventh-day Church requested us to collaborate with them in an event of a two-day event in the Cuscatlán Stadium with a capacity of almost 40,000 places. So the challenge was how to apply the incident command system now under the concept of a Christian evangelical campaign in a stadium that was attended by 40,000 people. After this, what we have, this is a challenge how to articulate all of us in the team with the members of the Adventist Church to make sure that we were able to accompany them with this process. So the first thing we did was, of course, to approach national authority, the Civil Protection Direction, and ask Hugo Melendez and his team all the collaboration so that after that we were able to define the guidelines so that institutions in the system would participate. And we also want to thank here on behalf of the Adventist Church. They asked us to do that publicly, to implement a system, a command station where we could work from this same coverage. It was during 2 days, and in average 50,000 people attended the Cuscatlan Stadium, approximately 600 buses with people coming from Mexico, United States. Some others came just for the campaign, some from Central America. The collaboration that the whole system presented was incredible, and we worked jointly in an effort where, just as in the Carnaval de San Miguel, which is a very interesting, a large event, since the campaign event coincided with a Friday that is called here Black Friday, and next San Miguel Carnival. So after this, what we did was to ensure that the operative plan that had been designed was working, and it walked alone. And the institutions were clear, from firefighters, commands, Red Cross, Green Cross, National Civil Protection Police, and people working on the traffic and security. We shared this as a very good experience because this was recognized by the authorities of the stadium and others that were involved in this process. Of course, this is not going to compare with all that we saw with the example of Brazil, where they were moving the large amount of people in the big stadium for the inauguration of the World Cup. However, we were very happy to accompany as an NGO in this process for the Adventist Church, where we were also able to accompany under the ICS modality with this effort. Important challenges to continue with these efforts to accompany also our direct partners with the communities that we work with in the 14 countries, and make sure that we are also these good partners for national systems, that we are also remain integrated to each of these systems. One of the things that we can guarantee as an NGO is that we are not going to go through the back door to integrate with the humanitarian response operations that might be required at some country. And from there on, the challenges are to make sure that we can continue with these reflection processes, strengthening our training processes in the coming years, to make sure that other people from our teams also become change agents, multiplying agents who are collaborators for the institutions represented in this audience. And in that order, we could also accompany training processes as was done, for example, for El Salvador. Here, this previous year, we collaborated with two mega churches. One is the Baptist Church and the other is the Elim Church. The attendance per Sunday is approximately 60,000 people. That's for you to see that we worked with them under that modality of creating scenarios, working all the systems for institutional plans, in this case the church plan, and accompany the whole training process with the youngsters with whom we were working for approximately 500, 600 teen leaders of these churches. We're doing that also in Ecuador, Costa Rica, and other countries where World Vision can be of assistance for these processes. We want to continue with these training efforts with the youth, and I just want to thank you again for allowing us experience in which the ICS as an organization solves and facilitates the interagency coordination tasks. Now we have the challenge also to ensure that we're moving this effort towards all the partners with whom we work in humanitarian country teams from Panama, and from there on each of the 14 country humanitarian teams, and also to ensure that we are faithful in the multiplication and disclosure of knowledge that LOFTA shares with us. Thank you for your patience and time, and God bless you. Thank you, Jose, your presentation. Very interesting. I'm going to open a brief space of no more than 5 minutes to be able to listen from each one of you who are accompanying this forum. For any comment, question, those of you following us via internet, we're ready here to listen. For Enrique, my question, and it's, have you signed or any protocol prepared between the government and the private sector as such to have joint answers? We have the obligation by law from the private sector. Risk activities are federal competence to elaborate response plans, and at local level we have the all these activities. It's not compulsory, but we have to have support from them. There are approaches with the main mutual assistance groups. Coatzacoalcos, for example, which is one of the main industrial areas, there are some type of collaboration between them to strengthen, to go beyond legislation. There is an instrument in the environmental audit that is something that industrials can do by their own will, and this makes us sign an agreement with authorities so that they review all how compulsory the environmental legislation is, and as part of this we have the emergency response part, and it's compulsory to strengthen aspects. If it's not standardized, we take international standards as a reference, including the security of all the processes and emergency response. For Engineer Aguilar, COSENSA also works with other groups like yours and companies like yours in other countries. Is there coordination? Right now, just in Colombia. Remember that OSENSA at the beginning, the main partner was Enrich. So the main support for all this emergency response came from Canada. For Engineer Aguilar, we usually use the system we have seen in many countries, that we see that the system is the government part, state agencies and all that respond to an emergency. But however, we have seen that most of the resources are in the private sector. The example that you were giving us, how could we, or what needs to be done to attract more of the private sector to this joint efforts, public sector, private sector working hand in hand to be more effective? To invite them to participate from the beginning of their process, not making them part at the end. And I would say that this is more commitment, not only for complying with standard and legislation, but also this is an initiative to invite them. We have to invite them to participate from the beginning. We go hand in hand, and we're going to work jointly. For example, the simulation that we had in year 2012, level 3, I didn't mention that here, but it took approximately a full year of planning, a day and a half, coordination between the public and private sectors in Coveñas, with the participation of approximately 17 entities, deployment of 5 scenarios which allow us to be working closely with them. I reiterate, the participation from the beginning is fundamental. I wanted to complement that response because I would like to share with you that in Colombia, the topic of hazardous materials attention also links firefighters of Colombia, and we have brought over the private sector to the national table with the guilds, industrials, everything that is related to chemicals and integral responsibility, and we are in the phase of establishing a protocol. That's the question regarding joint response, because it's in the regions where it's needed the most. So it's about this. This is the way in which Colombia is working on public-private alliances, and a memorandum has been signed between them. Another question for Jose Nelson Chavez from the chat. The question is, how many people in Costa Rica from your institution have received ICS training? Last year, in collaboration with World Vision and Scouts, we had a training process with an approximation at this moment as an orientation that's basic enough. 60 kids from a church in San Jose and university participated in this first training. Do you have any other? Very well. First of all, I want to thank each of the speakers, Engineer Rosalba Aguilar, Enrique Salvador Ortiz Espinosa, and Jose Nelson Chavez, who have been quite eloquent in the presentation of their experiences and application of ICS internally and externally in their institutions. When I began my presentation, I said that for USAID, of the work with private sector is important because Roy said most of the agencies, institutions that are working on this topic, at least in Central America, they have had much more emphasis with the public sector and very poor participation in the sector. So the challenge is that here, each one of you are leaders in your regions. You have to dare to promote the participation of the private sector and take advantage of these experiences. And I do not doubt that if we go to Enrique, Jose Nelson, or Rosalba to advise for guidance, I'm sure that we can count on their collaboration. Thank you very much for your attention. And where's our Master of Ceremonies? Now let's take a look at video that was brought by Ocensa to know more about the work that we have performed in the region, in their country mainly. going to have a slight change because the video doesn't want to be uploaded. So let's move on to the break right away. Please be back in 20 minutes, and after the break, we're going to watch the video. Thank you.